Doma Samonolia
First of all, I want to say good afternoon, everyone.
Kasan da Drin Shabet sama Chitombo Digash Dedra, Tama Dedusani Kenzanabsto.
Yesterday and today I was staying on the high throne, so now that I'm sitting down here, it's a little bit strange, feels strange.
That in the Kashre, and Drin Chidu Chalia, and that Buddhist in science, some of that topic is a wish to. Taineng science scholar misega lojo sketch mane and Buddhist client yawaji single man tepjajma single man diga science sade di Buddhist in science sade ngala topic de gange shibchi gange chimshi jedo.
So the subject of this afternoon is Buddhism and science. So it sounds really very impressive topic, but in fact I don't have any special studies about science and Buddhism. I only know just very roughly. So actually this subject of Buddhism and science gives me actually a really hard time.
That that science had the Kashredaji Ben Kundun Jarum Sege Energy Nambege Nabasange Batlia, Nabasange Shetlia, Yawarji, Nabasum Chenage, Energy Nambe Siri Sajiche, Energy Nambe Tadrup philosophy, Nambe Tadrup Jiche, and that. Nambeki and Kajroda and Jigi Nambe Chulu Zamara Tachi religion that religion Basum Chenache Sungare Chezang Digi and Namasange Balia and Sirigi Cha Namasange Be Chashi Kashechi in Siri the Tumbuevasana Dando Dandonaji invest Cheche and Kandaji Tse Shege, the Nijig Tone, maybe needs you Tolia, Kadiji to Mido, Taji Cheche, that Jebada, and Danish Musumki, Jibetone, Taji Cheche, the Degatone, Takanda, G. City the Tumba, that the arm was on the area. Dana Sian, Nambasaki, Kasheji, Yanji custom somewhere, Lam Luxe, and Taji to better rituals there, but that Choga Chalen la soba that there, you debut that debaji Chuluki, Constogo Yobero, and Danachia Namba Rangiji, Tumo Maimbi, Sadan Lamla soba, that dege Namsha, Tang, and it Dadumambuchi on the order, from the Susu Dadumambuchi on the orders.
So about science, His Holiness the Dalai Lama says that in Buddhism itself we have three parts that form the Buddhist teachings. So one part is the Buddhist science, another part is what we call the philosophy, the Buddhist philosophy, and another part is the religious aspect of Buddhism. So in Buddhism itself we do have a science aspect, science view, where one investigates the reality, the manifest reality, how they are analyzing them either through mental analyzation or through direct observation, direct perception. It is investigated. So, which is a lot in common, has a lot in common with science. And then you have, of course, the rituals and like customs, which are more part of the religious aspect of Buddhism. And then you have in Buddhism itself, like the explanation, the philosophy, according to the different schools and philosophies. You have different philosophies about the path and bhumis, the grounds on Buddhism.
Dora da Toman Nabe Chedi, Sir Debabus and Dando. That's a check Debabodi and Deba Shagatua. Chagare, Gabas said, Chagare. Jezang Kondi and Kashweda Niege, sometime even touch Konji the Chulu. 지단 거 저거 출루기 미나사말 출루 대바이 연gen 텔레 녀선발 콩을 체리기 아니 바신백이 가수지 자시에서는 다도 체리바 인백이 초대 슈체도 지지 근데 지금 지지
When we look at the teacher of Buddhism, who was the teacher, was the Buddha Shakyamuni. And when we look at Buddha Shakyamuni, who was the son of King Shuddharma, and so the way how I see it is like, rather than just showing like teaching a religion with faith, where one has to believe with faith, he was emphasizing more on that scientific aspect, on that science aspect. That's how I kind of see it or recognize it.
And the Dumba the Gorani Zago in Chelia, the Kashre Gesek. 예버지 계세 초와 계제 도시오브레 제상 kon 계획 디디산 콘다지 education kon 계획세 인상 다지 급티류기데 지 롭수세나다도 롭종샤 약슈 베는 게겐르시 비네 약슈 예버체 다나시 롭종디게 상월로 다간다 콘리아 지 약슈에서 토고요래 출룩 토네 베나제 지 다나신기 rinne kang thone ibenya konlia lojong yashwede ragresam those things.
So the Buddha, being a prince up to 29 years, up to his 29 years, he was the prince, son of the king. He received the best education possible. Like being a prince, he received the best teachings, the best teachers, and like best education concerning religions and religious traditions as like the different subjects of knowledge or sciences.
가라서는 공기 yapdi 공 개보차기 개보지 차기 저와치 무십시오 얼마도 공다 가르치 접도 총네 기시 빵네 안다들지기 nenjurbachi 차로 되게 저와시라요 말에 그래서 공 개보지 차 채도 나공 롭종 돼야 다다는 신기 에네 가르쳐 간다 공 들려 가르쳐다지 직딩 처리야 딱 한다 직딩기 베너지 처리야 저 좋아게 인트레스트 레야 제도 공기 매주방 시다 쳐요.
Because his father, being the king, wanted that his son will follow in his footsteps, become a king. So his great hope was that he would become a king and not like become a renunciate, leaving behind the worldly affairs, becoming a yogi. So that was not what he wished for his son. And in order for his son to become a king, he wanted to give him like best studies and making really interested in the worldly affairs. So therefore, in this way, he tried many ways and many means to make him interested in the worldly things.
톡바 첨부 제과들 균제야 균제매 말 균제야 가래서나 아니 상계 총비 제래야 아니 야가로 쇠래야 아니 지게다 개비세라고 단단하신 미장 첨부도 주기 세도 총차의 제래야 아니 챙겐스 딱지 챙겐 보들이야 아니 그런 마음발 간데 요사래 디톨이야 다지 다른 참에 공기 수불을 때네 아니 마음발이야 간데 차서래 디톨이야 안다 간다 지 개바 유den게 근데 깨다로 수야래 제가 급지도 사나 아니 장송 개바지 폐제 안다 공기 예비제부터 공기 다 디두산 공기 다 세 구수 차상 때네 안 공기 예비제부터 다 저랑 세디 야나 아니 다 콜로기 예버서머로 다 저간다 예부침 보십시 다지 급디디다 야기 지 개용라 왕 유튜브에 예부침 보치용스라스 야나 아니 다 럽도 총네 다 간다 저 배지 가르쳐다 realization somewhere 다지 똑바 첨부 똑바 통부 인디베 되게 간다 지 냠nem버 되게 차례 도스 되게 다 공리하다 다지 챙긴디 되게 공다 롱댄스지 개버스 제가 드네선 다 공로 되어야만다 개버디 공기 예버디 로 되어야만
So the reason why the king had doubts about that was not just without reason. There was a reason for it, because when the Buddha was born, just as it was tradition in India that when a king was born, like a prince was born, or in a high family, they would call a soothsayer, like somebody who was skilled in reading the signs of the physical signs of the child, the newborn, to predict his future, what will come. So in this way, the king had called a very expert Brahmin to examine the body of the Buddha, and as he looked at it, when he finished his examination, he said, either this child will become like a universal monarch, so meaning a very powerful king who would be able to bring all of India under his power, or he would renounce the world, leave the household behind, become a monk, and would obtain a very high realization, become a realized practitioner. So that's what he told the king, so that's why the king was like not so happy.
And 제세 코란 총두네 안다지 인베스트 지 삼동안데 지 좋아 지 코란 지 좋아리아 삼동안 지 좋아를 제제 될이야 삼동안이야 시다 쇼치 보게 되지 아디 김생 가래봐 니주 가르지는데 김생 가래봐 삼동안 지 가르 좋아리아 간지이나 섬을 지 좋아리아다 될이야 지 딱지 치알 가보시다 해 되지 근데 인주산에 단동공 이야기부터 되지 거래 가서다 저 독바스는 자도 심제의 체르로 대체 루두산에 아는 공기 예비예부터 코란데 포장 나올래야 아는 감바드스베 지카르와디 포장 나올래 벤제신 따나도 포장으로 지비 디나로 마다베 디치로래야 로마주체 아 디치로 치 안담나 통체비나 베네지 가르쳐지 지조 난게 강에다 진짜 망고스 통체비네 안고 셈라 요아 첨부조데 삼제 치로 마당제 안다나시 제레야 공침부 차사베 제레야 marriage som마로다 지 진짜야 가르쳐다 주모든제나 베지 수체 다가나 공 포장디나로 신다 삼로 매버치체 다간다 공기 든데지기 탑시루지 제브레
And on top of that, the prince, when he was, as he was still very young, he was also very.
말하면 코랑 이 슈누트는 코랑 좋아만 코랑 좋아만 다게 가르라고 영하고 만다. 주마 중간 랍셔야나다 하고 말해.
Sainteté dit que je peux.
Holiness said you can just tell whatever you want. You can just tell a complete lie, and nobody will notice anyway. So the king was worried also because the prince, was very, very intelligent, and he always would ask questions about everything, trying to understand the reasons, trying to understand situations of things. So, which made the king even more worried about this. So therefore the king made, like inside the palace, he made various palaces which were extremely beautiful, but did not allow the prince to ever leave his palace, because he thought if the prince would leave the palace, then and would see the difficulties like in society, that his mind would change, and he would want to leave the palace, the life of a householder. So therefore he would not let him leave the palace. And when he grew up, then finally also the king arranged the marriage for the prince, so always keeping him inside the palace. So he tried by all means to keep the prince in the palace and make him to become the king.
다다마들이야 아니 간달 가슈에다지 니마치리아 아니 다 공기 가슈에다지 니마치리아다 치로리아 다 공패고의 송체 아니 꼬리아 다바지 게베마 고랑기 다 엽예부터 마고마 사르치리아 아니 꼬리 패고 송체 안다 치로 패네 지게가 나지 동에서 말왜 다 되주시드 체브레 다 텔레텐션 콜리아 소나 첨부르실래지 예서마다 초직네 가조르지 임이나다 게가 나지서 말다디 남균이 아주 통대베 내주주 차디야래 다 이번에 콜리아 남균 포장나로 마도베 디치로리아 배아 고급시다며 인상 안다디 람상지 통연디산 안 바지다 소나 첨부르지 오면도 섬르지 이 정도 다 간다야 된대지 토네 간다다 예브게보되게 엔탑시 망고체비네 안티즈기 다 공기 다 간다라지 스피리추얼 서머웨 다 된대지 토리아 제 가슈르다 aspirations and dado interests and dado 다 대가 맞투시제 단도나 담아들이야 다 가두제 공기 게시 빵네 아니 신나기리아 폐제 다가다 공기다 미즈르 마슨 사바 신다지 탄도랑바 임브레
However, eventually one day he told his father, the king, that he needed to go out, he wanted to see the world outside the palace. So he was arranged that by his father that he would see only wonderful art. But as he went out, he saw what we call the sufferings of birth, old age, sickness and death. So for us, for him, it was like a very strong impression. Yeah? We think for us, like birth, old age, sickness and death is something we see daily, so it's not anything like surprising for us. But since he lived all his life in the palace, and was the first time he saw it, so I think that's why he had this very strong impression. So the king, however, tried many ways to keep him in the palace, but he could not stop his aspiration, his interest in the spirituality, and so therefore eventually he left his kingdom, he left his life of a prince and took up a life of a yogi in the forest and started a new life.
Religious chode shuche yebe sad da dangi shubna shire kanda susu mizinang le be ningbu kharimba dana singi ji mission ro de mizidi da kashwe mission somar da ji drubje kharimba da dindeji tola gone and be dindeji toward land cheche dindeji ton invest cheche and tamadlia sange koma da kanda konanglia debe da kanda toward land di 베데 톱체 딱하다지 사케 고마토스마 다들이 춤브레 제자다디 지 녜다게 쉬는 신기다 녜 쇼가 김전데 엔 지리버 임베 초데 쇼체르 쇼르사데 다 지리버 세난 저도 야나 지 reasonable som다 지 김전제네 드라디 지 김전제는 드라다 녜시 녜베 체는 드라기 초데 쇼체여지 아 드르지 통고요
So what I want to show here is that the Buddha was, in his religion, he was emphasizing more the science, the scientific aspect, like I just said before, like he asked himself the question, what is the essence of human life? What is the mission, the purpose of human life? And on top, through this, then he investigated, and through this, as an answer to that investigation, he obtained the state of Buddhahood. So this, was how he then finally obtained Buddhahood. So just as I mentioned before, the Buddha emphasized much the scientific aspect, or we can call it science, or we can call it like being reasonable, like showing, looking for the reasons, finding some certainty behind the thing. So that's how I see that he emphasized that.
제자 안들데 아주 출루 지당 출루 강로 출루 창마怎么的 다 나머지 보면 출루 망보지 통마지 총배 걸리야 다 저지 spiritual cultural tradition rather than cultural religious tradition somewhere 다 간다지 출루래 spiritual 세나마도 다디 슈체에 되지 다 이면은 걸리걸리 에너지 디 custom르지 람록스르 차체 아니 미망오지 주로 진주 대주에게 아니 오늘 전에 가다지 수수익이 게르긴외네 아니 지 가서다디 invest 차다 다나 신기 아니 지 냠뇽 사알라 소바티게 만당의 경기 안 갈리갈리고 가서지 이제 제스점 대면 제스점 마다베 오늘 전에 지 수수 미지 나로래야 지 미지 가져와다 미지래야 지 교화 첨부용하다 편도 첨부 중앙지 니버치 대점 통금이야데 가르쳐 나도 조조 미수수 가서다 되려야지 오늘 전에 가다 배주 시라라치 개긴 배주 시라라치 매우르지 데르다디 조 만체 커뮤니티스 뭐 다디 람다 로스의 디제스 조선도 알지 어디들이
So generally all religions, not just Buddhism, all religions started as a spiritual tradition, not so much like just a religious tradition. So in the beginning the spiritual aspect was more strong, and later how gradually it became like a tradition, like a traditional thing, like a custom thing, and many followers then, because they didn't like personally investigate, they didn't look for personal experience anymore, so therefore it became more and more a blind faith, just a mere belief tradition, the religious tradition. So that's why it couldn't make like the lives of the people, individuals, change so much or benefit them as much. This power couldn't come out, and the reason for this, I think, is because they didn't make so much effort to investigate, just follow what the community, society follows, and just do that traditional way.
드링들이야 응애사블이야 다 개치슈 비직디 아주다 religious and science 라나 저것도 다디 조디 야나지 남배체다 안 science 라는 저것도 다 지부지부르시 다 조디 내가 아주 최소기 지 science다 다나 신기 에너지 최디 편준지 밸런스는 정도 야나 지기질이야 로버치야 돼 컨디시 로버용 토레스 다디산지 체리 다르베 첨부 예대비 뒤주지래 제산 디균전 때네 안 핀준 지기질이야다 지금 다 가르래 understanding 다 다는 다 가르래 펜토 컨트 쳐오래서디 개침부터 직차디야래.
So I think today that most important is we can call it just religion and science, or we can also call it Buddhism and science. For me, it's really the same. Yeah? Mainly, we can think about how does religion and science benefit each other. How can we bring a balance between religion and science? How can they support each other, benefit each other? So I think nowadays that we're in a time that science is spread far all over the planet, then we need to see how can it benefit each other, like how can it bring an understanding and a benefit to each other. I think this is most important.
다지 최루스는 다른 넘버치 샤데 조다 베이직 아주지 미지나로래야 가서 닝부 큰지 랭고야 봐 안 다는신 지 미직 라 상동다 안 글론 캐당 따든데 근데지 뭐디 망어저르지다 근데지 로전 저거래 띵아서 개점시다 차디어라 섬등도 가르잖아. 삼성 아주 지 체리 더는지 다 간다지 information 다는 신 understanding 좀 망부 쉐비네 망부지 artificial로 차지. 이 카치더로 차지. 창물로 학과대 카치더로 체 창물로 아주 망부진 고쳐야 돼야지. 다 이번에 칸낭도 쳐지. 아니 저 소수기 정신 니주들 삼다연도 사네. 안 아주 가디네지 고모데로 찍다. 지금 뮤직 capture direction으로 컨디션 버디 합 모데로 찍다. 다는지 라버도야 참점직 체리 등 테크놀로지도 이야기를 두사네. 정신이 아주 미셈디. 에네 다지 디스터브 차지. 근데 그 토안에 에네 소송운에 전에 가르쳐다 아직 장모만답디 니야다 가버르치 버르치 다들이 차디어다 드리두산 디규제데네 아니 최적돈 마트리 시아키 드리지 모드 차디 모드 체네 안 간다지 소수 미진들이야 지 전다지 예버지 이제 차다 닝부 지最连 차요 이제 차디 개심부지 resamtangyu.
Okay, so what it says in religion, in Buddhist religion, basically it says what is the essence of life, what motivation we should have in life, what intention we should have in life. So this is like introducing us to this and giving us training in that. And I think for us this is very important, because in science sometimes it gives us a lot of information, understandings of many things which are artificial, always towards the outside. But when we look towards the inside and how is the nature inside, what is the situation in the mind, we are very confused very often and cannot really direct our human life, don't know really what to do with our human life. Especially nowadays, also as science is improving more and more, actually it brings also more and more disturbance to our mind. So therefore I think this introduction to way how to live our life in a meaningful way, in an essential way with our heart is something very important. I think that's how the Dharma is introducing us, helps us to bring meaning to our life, to bring trust and heart into our life. So to look for that, I think that's important.
제자지 추로 토네 시아게 다간다 딘데기 지기 미지기 다 닝보암 하나지 뭐네 가지고 aspiration 수수 미지나 aspiration 딘데지 가지고 퇴니를 차다 딘데지 이제 차디 개침이 제자 안 추로 랍세트수 다 창마를 랍도 말이네 principle som으로다지 닝부도디 다조本来 아주 미지 차차베나 미 나신지 간다주 수수에기 미지에기 딱 간다 지 가르다지 M's and objects 사마로다지 통토야로지도 미지 닝보 대한 띵사보에다지 미지 닝보 통토야로지 미지 튜닝으로 통토야지 든지 민주사네 다디 아주 미수불을 참비나 미 예민이나 시럽식 자리 어려서 정도.
So therefore, I think Dharma, the Dharma traditions, religious traditions, spiritual traditions, can give us essence in our life, can show us what is should be our aspiration in life, and to search, to be interested in, and have trust in that. I think this is important. Yeah? Of course, not all teachings in religions, but like the essence, or the most of part of the teachings of Dharma are just like our eyes permit us to see things, the things, and therefore find our way. The teachings of Dharma that allow us to see really the profound heart, the essence of life. So therefore they are comparable to our eyes.
나들은 지 체리기 톤, 체리스는 자도 단도나지 다대야 가주에 다도다 공도 쉬는 신기 가주지 출루 되면서데 이지 다대야 오늘 저녁에 다지 대바 이지 잠다 아나지 knowledge 보면 봐 다대 수수기 미지나를 배주해 봐 지금 툴이라지 라서라지 되게 잡을이야 인지미지다 가수의 수세 미지다 데네 가수지 수수 미지나로 라레 따네 다들이지 수승은 다지샤레 다는 신기 라렌 따네 근데 가수의 지 냠수 영화 샤루디 개점시라를 섬정도
So just like in science, just with science, as I said before, with the religions also, that it is not enough just to have belief in a religious tradition, just to just merely keep it on a faith level, but to really see it as a useful tool in our human life, that we need to be able to use it, that we have to put into use. So therefore we need investigation, analysis, and we need to put it into practice and into experience. I think that's important.
다디 드드티에서 젤리아 트와틀을 채나마도데 그래서 집이 두준 당스마다.
So I think also we should make question and answers afterwards, because if I only have to talk, I don't think I will be able to fill the 2 hours. So just talking myself, I don't want to fill the time. In Tibetan, we have a tradition of reciting the kangyur. Yeah? So if you would bring the text and I would recite, then yes, I could probably fill the time. But otherwise, just me talking, and I think it's difficult.
다들 오늘 카요라요르지 제상지 세리디디디 리고디디 다들 오늘 라와 니는 신도지 수수기 미지디 오늘 전에 카요라요 토네 지 페버주야다 아니지 다들이지 고 카요라요를 찾아가래 제상 딘데게 딱 하나 군인이오디 수수기 미지기 다지 닝불이야지 대면시야 대당 다는 신기 미지기 무슨 다가 차와 주변 대니부들이야 빈준 질질 된데 진짜봐 띵사버를 지단 딩니니 빈준 제바차데 케치버스메로 서투스팅도.
So the science is analyzing the reality and looking at like directly what is going on. I think this investigation is very important, and I think it's very important for us to bring like essence into our life, to trust the essence of our life. We need them both, have them like the two hands of a person. They need to go hand in hand, both in the analysis and trust and faith.
나야 당연히야 주어진 치제 양디제랴 양모투니 같이 시하면서.
So now we make some. I will answer some questions, and then we can continue to talk.
Bonjour.
Da michik chiwe ne kabla, masura kona pento jia kare jia yore.
So when a person dies, how can we benefit that person? It's not the good question as the first questions. Use another one.
Mitakbagi koragi chungse suronans.
Please, can you say something about a little bit? Can you please tell a little bit about impermanence? And his Holiness says, just a little bit, not much, okay?
텐저도 미다베 거등에 닌다. 미다베 거데 중세 히라지 망보 히마스.
So a question, yeah, so okay, I will just say a little bit about impermanence, not much, as the question asks.
미다베 거사데 impermanence samar. 다치 남경아 주지 시야데 뭐버 상월로 가라주지 께 잡는 직배 등이도 주버세나 장도 깨어 코랑 깨베 깨지 담보 코란에 지 직배 유시한을 마되어 besomar. ran 직버디 유시한을 되 봐봐. 아 런이다 가다 집에 등이도 주대 봐지. 다들 지 무시 알아. 제가 끼지 가다 교원조대 해봐지. 난 지금 교원조대 해봐지. 지대 해봐지. 정아도 지켜라.
So when we talk about impermanence, then it is says that all phenomena, as soon as they come into existence, as soon as they are born, they already become impermanent, will become destroyed moment by moment. So the first moment of making it, of bringing it into existence itself is already the degeneration of it without the need for any other causes.
디 미다베 지당다 미다베 사디 야초 지니 아주 삼다베 이미는 다지 미망버지 미다베기 꼴이야 지 네거티브 토는 삼만 버씩 당대 아주 용디가래 지서 미다베 꼴이야 아 시라랑 지 아다디 꼴이야 에 기지시야라 시라 가보면 되는 거지 따이는 미다베 지 포지티브 토는 삼다베 이미나 미다베 사데 그럼 미다베 교원로 예비지 인자 아는 가주지 가서에 고급 사바선에도 opportunity 서버다지 정신기 사바사바 용대야지 제자다지 기지 가말레 기지치마 아니 추정 가말레 추주치마 다는 신기 엔다지 나줄래 고모사다 되게 간다 고급 사바사바 용대 예비지 제장 아주 들이야 미다빈 교원주의빈 디고라 삼다인 두산에 정신기 나줄이야 가두이네 뒤다도 지 고급지 고급디 가두이네 나줄 예대비지 아주 가두이네 고급 사회 예대비지 이버지 아주 손안을지 연구하래 제자 수수기 고급 사회 예비인자 디기 당과 사회 차이와 되지 다가서에 inspiration 로지 연구 있어 sometimes.
Generally, also on one hand, when we talk about impermanence, then many people think about the negative aspect of impermanence and therefore don't like to speak much about impermanence. But if you think about the positive aspect of impermanence, then we can see impermanence means that everything is changing. So that means we have always a new opportunity. Like naturally, since everything changes naturally, it always presents us new opportunities, like the previous moment and the later moment, or the hour before, the next hour, morning, evening. So every time is coming a new opportunity that is coming through the impermanence, which naturally presents us with new opportunities. So that I think we should think of impermanence, understand it like that it always gives us like a way to take another choice. Whatever we've done before, we can take and have a new opportunity and can make a new choice and be inspired like that.
제자 아주 고급사디 지 칠월이야지 고급지 땡겐르지 아주 그뒤네 라와kép대야로 지원이야. 다 이미네 우리들 주탈이야고 우리 코랑기 정신 우리 정신 코랑기 딱 간다. 그뒤네지 고급지 원디게 옆에 정신 고급세나 자도 야나 간들지 아주 긴 배주 잘 먹어 봐. 저기 고급지 아주 그뒤네 여대부터 아주 셰프체과다 개체부터 자대가 도섬등도 따뜻네 미답에는 딱 개치슈직디 가라서나 치와 미답아서 되래. 치와 미답아야 돈에 차디 땅아서야 미마무치려야 돼 강해 체요래.
So therefore, when we talk about opportunity, we usually wait that somebody from outside comes and gives us an opportunity. That's what we hope for. But actually the nature of the phenomena is that naturally it presents us all the time with a new opportunity, something that where we don't have to make any effort, it comes by itself. I think this is important to understand. And then the most important thing about impermanence is impermanence and death, which is something that gives a lot of difficulties for people to accept that.
야나 딱 개체 대가르셰비네 깨와 코란 직번르지 깨와 코란 치원르지 차대요래 제 드네 뉴스안에 안다 맞으디 깨와디 액셉체 뉴스안에 아니 치와야 정식이 액셉체고 알지 그런 내추럴 프로세스 단 그런 정신을 차대요래 다 이미네 다디 용물이야 안 바지다 맞으기 베나 다 계신 아주기 미지지 가서 니마지데 랑 미지지 임르지 들이 삼당체 아니 쇼베네 건다바도 저 수수기 안다 미지기 간다지 다 니지기 정다르 총토베이미나 아니 칼리 리베신도 안 간다지 치와사데 수수 미지난기 차셰치 임바마다베 다디지 엔드도지 마임바 다디고라 디기 프로세스 난기 그 차시지인데 그렇지 되지려야 칼리 아주지 가서다 kumdi 태야 그렇지 되지 용도로 삼정도스 되지다 내가 어제 되지 말아 가셔.
So what, just as I said before, like just as whatever comes into existence is already the cause for dying, for stopping to exist. So therefore, as we accept birth, we have to accept naturally as a natural process, or after birth, death, something that comes with it. So what we can do is like we can train ourselves by thinking that, for example, one day is our whole life, and if we think like that and train ourselves like this, we can see that life is not coming to an end with with death. It's just like a natural process. It's not the final end. It's just like part of change again that comes. So by this we can develop a certain habit of familiarizing ourselves with death by thinking, yeah, but this day is like my whole life. So at the end of the day it would be like death. Yeah? So by thinking like this, we can familiarize ourselves and see that death is not the final end of life, just a part of the process of changing. Many questions came from the back. There's a question in Tibetan, and His Holiness says in Tibetan. I can read myself.
Oh. 디 닌지의 체리니 저가라스. 디 가서다.
Quel est le lien
What is the
entre la
connection
compassion et
between
la science?
compassion and science?
Yeah.
What should I say about
다
that?
닌지의 체리. 딱 compassion 스몰라. 아저디 가래 즉 empathy 자 즉 다나 신기 다 emp 미신달의 empathy로 지 용한데야디 전신기 가서 랭게 밀 담보 부 가서 지 집에 밀 담보는 전신 랭게 디 누버디 어스 세르버디 디스고아 세르버디 전신 랭게 다지 empathy로 지 미신달 지시 용한데 지 신달의 샤차와다 닌제의 사바디 전신기 밀리아 랭게 요르스 다이미니아 그런게 지가를 쿠유 살론 주스 쿠유는 되게 개발을 된체네 양거지 switch off 너 샤지 되지 않았어 배는 차샤위미나 아주 지담미 사물이야 지 language skill som으로다 지 기지시약 스킬로디 아 사물로다 용디야다 다이미니아 아니 계시 미지 미부 충중지 아니 미 메시지 롱바지리아 딱하다지 신나라고 야나 다지 드니지리아 당샤나 한그 미게 계시 미시게 차로스 제가 다는 신기 에네 그런 구유 나로래야 타나야 지 닌지사다 아니 지 샤차 닌지사 된저기 깨자 된저기 칙디 배주 단계 망부 예비네야 안데 부디 레벨 나로래야 다지 된저기 다 박차세는다도 아니 지 야부용 도르스 그거라 전부 쳐주잖아 그거라 러신기 야지 닌지 관배와 편도 용어스 그래서 제가 디준세 때네 아니 가수르다 덴덴기 지 체릭 셰데 인포메이션다 안다나시 낭취네마 셰데아기 디게 창으로 닌지기 정다르디디 손제 체토입니다 안데네 지 편도 용어를 써버지 아주 지 저번에 마음발에 지 better future 지 요악다 저러지 용디거래 다이네 야 나베시아 compassion 좀마다 인지해야 돼야 empathy리 또 쇼시아르지 야 데스멘다르지 바지 용구이기를 삼정도
So, when we talk about compassion, science, the compassion or empathy, that's something that science says also that naturally, like we are born with a natural capacity to feel compassion, empathy, of affection for others, is something that everybody has, like just small children have naturally when they're born. But then if the environment where they grow up, if depending on the special environment where they grow up, then can develop more or less. For example, just like we all humans, we have the capacity, the potential to speak, to learn to speak. But if a small child, when it is born, is like abandoned in the forest and grows up in a place where there's no other humans to speak with, then this potential to speak is not going to be developed. Likewise, if a child grows up in an environment where like the feeling of empathy, compassion, and like affection is used a lot in language as well, then naturally later when the person grows up, he will have compassion more present in his mind or brain. So for this reason, there, I think if science and like the scientific information and the Buddhist training, like what the Buddhists explain about compassion, are working together hand in hand in order to develop, to train the people in compassion, I think it definitely will benefit, which will bring a better future, we can say, for the whole world. Yeah. But then also when we talk about compassion in Buddhism, I think it's more strong actually than what we call empathy or compassion generally. It's in Buddhism it's more strong, but it's more or less comes to that.
니지사디 아주 된데기 제외 뉴버지 당기 권수변은 신가 처음으로야 제외 뉴버지 요래서 이나 된데 제외 뉴버디 다간다지 쿠유다 다나 신기 다지 아주 셰빈다지 랭게도 주르중이가 용디게 섬정도 랭게게 들려야지 지 드번르지 세난다도 강에 아주다 남주 랭게 서로 랭게 드버 다드네야 주르중 세난다도 안 된데게 드버 다 간다 드시 뭐제 다 간다야 아주 제와디 에너지 제와 초를 원루지 그지 소술에 잡아야 돼봐 배나 파만으로 빈센으로 초본으로 든지지미나 아주 저야 비체 양 아주 수술 잡으시면 되게 되줄래 저시다면 되지 다 든지지 원이야래 제상 아주 인지사디 된데 제외 뉴버데지 타매 발봐 야게 동안으로지 든지지 가정 고견도디 저와디지 selfish 당 다는 신기 지 가르쳐지 란된 진진다 안랑 장기 초제버는 지야가네 배 가르쳐다 고견디스 바 매버스체 딜레안은 유 가르쳐서는 배나 아주지 란진진함 아니지 지 당진들부터 가르쳐다 케이지들부터 야나지 월들부터 다간다 직번들부터 드르지려 배샤지 아주 대 직번들 봐 도르체 다간다지 아니 아주 저와디 좀 탐해봐라 봐 야게도아루지 드르치야지 안다는 신기야 지 compassion 사디 지 제와보 지 추유여버체 니 제세유 지 폐해여버체체 된제게 딱 간다 니健康的 제서를 카가르지 마임치체 다 니 제세유 健康 코란 니 제세유들이야 큐르밤 티 인베 삼다네 된제게 토네 간다지 수수전이 디 차시야 디 대가라 인스타버 된제게 토네 간다지 버리부 되기 딱 강해야 야나지 버리부도 딱 강해야 차상으로지 수수 무슨 냠수 용어지 용토야로지 된제게 간다 간들 가수지 more dedications and dando 야난지 more actions and dando 다 된제지 용디요래 compassion 사 다 드리제샤 단 시라미시 compassion 시라마시 마도 닌제동 체리 니라
So compassion has it's like so it is a power, like a potential that we all have, but it depends on the different environment, like where we have like temporary effects on, like natural effects that can change our compassion, either to make it more or not. But anyway, when we talk about love and compassion, then usually our love is like very biased, meaning like we have love for those who have love towards us, like our parents, our relatives, our children, whereas for those who don't have love towards us, we don't love them also that much. So when we talk about compassion, actually we talk about like making this love boundless, like for everyone equally, like without not being a selfish love, a love that is interested in one's own purpose, like that cares for oneself or those who are belonging to our self-interested. So without that, we say usually that this self-cherishing mind of self-loving, self-cherishing mind is like a cage, like a wall, and this wall that we have to destroy so that our love can become boundless, limitless, and so in this way we train ourselves in order to increase our love to become boundless. So this is what we say mean actually with compassion. Likewise, when we develop compassion, like without kind of thinking, okay, I'm the one who has compassion, and oh, the other one is the poor object of compassion, and so when I say drink some water, and without like making this difference, like between the object of compassion and the one who has compassion, but seeing like one as equal, or feeling like that whatever pain and difficulty the other one has, I would like to experience it for him so that he would be free. If he would be like this, then we would have more dedication, more action, which would come about through compassion. So that's what I think. I don't know too much also. I mean, I know a little bit about compassion, but compassion and science. Another question, but now in English or French, whatever, I don't care.
So dans ta wami tumpa I mission payana nyamdu konde der konde teture. So tawa dans mi tumpa yana galwayana. Oh nyamdu konde der.
Nyamdu den karacho.
Nyamdu den mari how to stay together.
So how to live or stay together with people who have different ideas or who don't share the same views.
Oh, Daddy. Kadina Chuba shouting Sasanji somebody.
Okay.
Daddy jelling, jelling.
Sounds like a couple that is always fighting.
Maybe
I talk later about that.
Très difficile. Oh, gong, c'est là, tonglengi, la lengia là, oh, pento, yana, ketcheshun kamera.
About the practice of taking and giving, Tonglen.
Okay. Une autre question. Oh, Kiwangama Gikola. Tonglendi, ok. Donc, voulez-vous parler de l'importance de Tonglen dans la pratique de la méditation?
Can you talk about the importance of the practice of Tonglen in the practice of meditation?
bodhicitta samar chanju sem gomalia energy ji gyuli gebr chebalya energy dashin nyamje ko ne gyuli dashin jewe dashin nyambe ko ne gyuli gebr cha dashin jewe ko ne gyuli gebr cha 다 다른 신기 지 텔레소바탄들 망보시온디 가래 다 다시 냠베고는 귤리 개버치야데 다 코멘더지 지당한들지 가서에 튜몽들지래 다시 제외고 제와도 음만부지는 다시 상외 명아 선행자도 간다지 야지 로마 데스 가서 로이 뉴바 rabda pyu de chungwa sene mindu ta ga lo ni ba chawa de su le ma do be an sam lo le nang me ta ina da chi su da de da xin jia wa de ora shu chen bu chung bu de je zang dong ling yam le cha de da xin jie we nyam le du cha de ya de je da dian dian ji su su le da dang bu su su le ya sim jian xian le ya de ge zhe wa ji yue de yue me zhe wa shu cha bu ji yue be mi na dian dian ji da xin jie we samtanji tinde thone nyamli chebi tinde chikasure na kebar jong'a ji uri samtangdo yan tinde gebe zawa shu chabu meab cheche yan da chikasure tinde yibinan ga 가르지 na de pendo chikra yongwe na mena yan kashi da ji shenayo wa de yongdedo 동네 cheche an na nga na do tsagdo sing de yongdedo 원에 돈이 전에 너그 예배다 저거 예배인다 야나 남도기 지 왕기다 너그 예다 저거 시당 고추면도 딱 안다야 지 지당기다 미수수 문에 전에게 가르 미신다 동해랑 랑 대화 신의 뜻사데 무스베 라렌 dar thongge sam ngos de de thongye ngos len thongye ngos de thongye de an khasa khabar je re ni re da na sin yang ji su su ga len de khabar je ye de ba den de khasa re ni re ma to be an chang mo de yong thya de ka bu shi chi re da yi me de zo zo de a zo lo ju su su gi lo le be jong dar che che da de ji gi tu zu ji ko ga bu chung bu yi me mi sin da ga gang ye su su le ya ji su su gi da 디기 년라데 미신할 때 고급지 충분히미나 다 디두산은 직 대초조로 되는 지금 아주 처리 3년 나올래야 처리 차로 지다 다 조조데 우당다 마당다 대 지래라 초진에 너나 수 3년 날 되지 처리지 여다면 다 되지 처리 여야래 지 preparation 차로 처리 차로 되지 레셔서 말없이 이렇게
So, generally when we talk about Donglin, then it is a practice coming from the past masters of the Katamba tradition to develop bodhicitta in our mind stream, to generate bodhicitta in our mind stream. There's different methods of equalizing ourselves, seeing ourselves equal with others, exchanging ourselves with others, so different ways. And the way to equalize ourselves with others was like more the common way to practice, whereas the way to exchange ourselves with others was like the secret, crucial instruction for those people, students who had like a greater potential, like not maybe the highest or supreme potential, but like a stronger potential. Then they would practice this exchanging oneself with others to generate bodhicitta. And it would be great, very beneficial. But to do this practice of so the practice of Donglen, of giving and taking, is the practice of exchanging oneself with others. So if one is having like a great, like strong love in our love, compassion in our mind for other beings, then by doing Donglen, practicing Donglen, it will, exchanging oneself with others will be of great power. But if we don't have that much love or compassion for others, I wonder if there is actually much benefit. Others, people, they get also scared by doing Donglen to feel pain or get sick, But I don't actually wonder whether they really, through the practice of Donglen, they become sick and have pain, or if it's just through their superstitions, their fears that they feel pain or get sick. So, but because those who, through the practice of Donglen, really, as we say, we give our happiness to others and take upon all their suffering upon us. So those who can really do that, it's like maybe very few, very special beings, or those who very few beings who have a very special karmic connection with those from whom they take up their suffering. But what we do with this practice of Donglen, to exchange ourselves with others, taking and giving in this way, is to train our mind so then when the opportunity presents itself to us, that we can actually help others, that we are ready to do so, that we are ready to give our happiness and take upon us their suffering. So whether we combine it with breathing in and breathing out meditation, I think basically it is a way to think, to train our mind, whereas we think like this, to be able to actually get ready to give our happiness to others and take up on their suffering for ourselves. So that's how I see it.
Delia, Bena, Tian Jidang, the same time, Dunge, Nalu Yong Basho, Nge, Dewa Part, Jebasho Sade, Jidang, some down there, did shoot Stamino. That is some time Dunge, Ndiri Sajin Dunge Charabar, Jimavi, not the house, Dunge Yong Basho. Nalu Yong Basho, Dewa Part, Tempeshosom. That simply Cherabaji, that Dunge Cherabaji level, sometime, they'll be. Make a tonche, and that day, Tindiji Susuki gum, Susuki, that's sometimes that it is so said. Benaneza that yeah, be Gudulia, Tejor, Kizior, Gudul Kizior, the Kiddy, Togegan massage, comedy, Bejumecha, comedy, company that comments. 홈에 배주변자 제자 안 가고서 가시 지게 가시지 로버트제 콜로지 따지 코드에 든 로도 봐 홈에 든 콜로지 따지 로데도 다디 키디 엔예자 냥와십지 콜이야 주콜 다보 야로지 나는 윤지 시게 든 레메르미 제제 삼선 다보 야로 세상 냥와십지 콜이야 다보 야로지 다고 두스 다고는 윤지 가는 된다지다 심지어 동행할 템버 쇼바자 쇼스다 대화 탐지 파이 그래서 심지어 탐지를 민버 쇼스 동행 탐지 주용화 쇼스 니네 다 키리다 보게도서 레라고 자는 것도 키티 코미디 아니 남주 배주시라 매미자 고 마르비겨 나르비겨 아니 고 좀 사고 싶지도서 다들 추고도서 다들 추대제 자승부 싶지도서도 제가 아니 니마 진이지 때에서 다드네 왜다 아르데스 마르스 다 용서 마르스 제제 아니 미신다지 제제 다지 교란지 따로치 근데지 자고 계속스 제자 어디 디스르치 가서 다는 윤지 동네사데 칸에 시들레라 버치 심진 치라바 동에 치라바지를 상로마다 지용자 삼단데비나 레란도 커버치 다이네 양원수 제고촌은 깔아하버 제장 다들아스 우파 가보당 주나 봉우부세 디펜도 말다 다 조디 간다지 셈리아 오늘 저다 저지르지 딘지지 니주 총부이나 지 수수기 오늘 전에게 닝 타바네 심진 지리아 동해의 수수 고 강에 디 수수 코야지다 수수 디기에 좀더 파트야 고급지 총부이나 저기 인다마인스 딘디지 수술을 좋아하르실래 딘디지 삼스tam비나 아니 신이 칼리칼리지 가르에 수수기 다 등지세나 란진진 될지 수업다르지 수업해야지 교화 동토야르지 용그레 삼정도 마더지 다 우파당 가우파당 주나봉우사디데 시라시라 펜도가이나 삼정도
So when we do the Tonglen practice, then in general it is very easy to do kind of like thinking that I take the suffering of all sentient beings and I give the happiness of myself to all beings. If you do it in general, it's very easy. But if you don't think about like a specific suffering situation, then it's not really, I think, so beneficial to actually do that when breathing in and breathing out, breathing in the suffering, breathing out our happiness, just to think in a general way, if there's not like a specific suffering, a specific sentient beings. So I think that's not so special to do. For example, like in my monastery in Gyute, there was a dog, and this dog one time he fell from the roof, and so the lower part of his body became lame, was not possible to use. So some Westerners who were there like made like some put some wheel for his back, so he could walk with the legs, the front legs, and kind of pull his back after it with this wheel. And then there was like a person I know who said, okay, he would take care for that dog. And usually this person was like reciting, like this inspiration: may the suffering of all sentient beings come to me, may I give all my happiness to all sentient beings, like that. But in the case of this dog, then this person was not so easy to care for that person, to take care of him, because since he couldn't take care of his lower part of the body, the back part of his body, he was smelling really bad, and he had to wash him, and it was not so easy, so it was very annoying. And after 1 or 2 days he said, okay, I can't take care of this dog anymore, maybe we can find somebody else to take care of him. So this shows like that to like breathe in the suffering of all sentient beings and breathing out our happiness to all sentient beings is something very easy if it's not some actual special situation like in this case. So I think to do it really, to really do it is quite difficult, So it's not so much about breathing in and breathing out, thinking I breathe in the black light, thinking all the suffering of sentient beings comes into me, and I breathe out white light, giving all my happiness to others. But the question is, are we really able to do when the situation presents itself? Like, are we able to, from the depth of our heart, to take the suffering to onto us, upon us, and give our happiness to others, like in this case? So this is the question what we have to ask us. Am I really able when the situation presents itself? Otherwise, just to breathe in and breathe out is not so much beneficial. We're doing it all the time, and it's not so much benefit, no?
That chiso yongzora. 취소 là quand je vois dans les jamais ça quand je
quand je vois dans
de mimang samage shama sayage goa quand elle goa le yalo ang so tapsi kare yore
chama goa
how can we change the society to become vegetarian? It's difficult, I think, a little bit. How to make people conscious about that it's necessary to be vegetarian.
그래서 아주 배율이야. 아주 배율 안타까다 지금 롱바쿠 겨르 신장 안 롱바이체 롱바이임바체 롱바쿠 겨임바체 드리치두사나 안다지 칼라사 상으로 만세디 지 가서 애니멀 프로젝트 서버지 샤다 마르다 아니지 아다나지 티베탄 버터 케이크 이제 마버지 더 버터 케이크 서머라다 데 튀나 버터 케이크 들 란마다 시야 갈람 Tibetan cheese butter cake. Dana Shingi 50% cheese, 50% butter. Maybe more than that.
More butter.
More butter than cheese. I think Swiss cheese is much better. 이내 다 약 바트 말라브로 치즈 약 바트 야마나 야디 멜레스 female 마라 야부치라비야 다들에 제자 아주디 샤사거래 대샤라 가버지 다들 가오에 미마버지 알게지 저라 favorite food somewhere 다지 칼라 가슈 가라인스 데 칸에 된로 제한 되마신 샤스라로 젠 나가로 샤스고 말어 샤스가 메인디스 가본도스는 지 처음에 된게 괜찮을지도 제장 다다이 샬 가보이스 다 이내 샤마세로 가지 치는 개구심으로 개구심으로 안가란 샤마세체 다 다는 미신달에 에너지 마르바고리아 지 게시에네 근데 지 람드로 시다 교송 미망부지기 다 미망부지 표 야나로 다지 베르지 감상기 다 고마마체 나로는 샤스가 말해 안 최소 할래 되는 시래 안 별이 예배 고마티스 미세 별이 고마티스 강에리 열다 소외 더 샤마스나 나 있는 고즈에 샤마스체 안 미망부지 샤바로 지 청소 수심으로 청소 당나 든지 당보 든지 영화 그 채시다래 와다 미유데 게메 다지 수수고 봐 삼자로 셰 든지래
So about meat myself, if I tell my own experience, when I was eating meat from always, because since my home region is a very small area, very remote area, and people are nomads, so we eat mainly animal products like meat, butter, cheese. Like we eat these Tibetan butter cakes. I call them butter cakes because it's mainly made with butter cheesecake. It's like 50% cheese, 50% butter, or maybe even more butter. But anyway, don't please call it yak butter, since the yak is the male animal and cannot have butter. So please say it well, it's a Dri butter. So, but anyway, we eat meat and we like it very much. And I still like it very much. Sometimes people ask me, what is your favorite food? And I almost say like that it is meat. Like it comes into like my mouth, the word meat, but I don't say it because I don't eat meat. So it would make much sense. But of course I still like meat, but I don't eat it. Now it's been 8 or 9 years almost, I think, that I have been vegetarian. And likewise I talk to many people about giving up eating meat. So therefore in India all the monasteries gave up to eat meat. Likewise in the Dharma centers, and also in Tibet, the monasteries in Tibet, even so for them it's very difficult not to eat meat. They have difficulties to find other vegetarian food, but they also gave up to eat meat, and likewise many people gave up to eat meat. So I didn't have this plan from the beginning to make people give up meat. But it came like this.
제가 말반 디고들이야 람상아 상말로 말 자와는 방 드리차 이미 람산 차이민 거디 조메바다 조 당아 주지 심제망부지 점링도래야 심제망부지 아 저기 카세 체도 심제망부지 나주 동해 체배로 중요한데요래 세상 아주 드줄래지 상동과르지 지 소소기 류덴리아 소소기다 가다 강리아 든지 총부입니다. 안 구즈는 이 총부입니다. 안 강에 전부 차대지. 제자 딱 간다지 개시 마세. 그 심진 두루 개시 마세 마임체. 아 저기 emotional 토안에 딱 간다지. 딱니지 신 초아 지 가르에 동해기 초아당. 안 다는 신기 나르죠 초아로디. 아 저지 가르다 feeling 차 다디 개점 조진 되래 근데 조진에 이제 구류겠다 잡아야 돼야지 지 심진 두두망 스타지 내도네 쿠요렌 저요한데지 다 등이 주스다 티규젠ten 삼성에 사블이야 지 vegetarian 차기 균생기 만당으로지 같이 통음도 균생 먹고 싶으셔 버치 다 이미 삼사지 오늘은 수술 내지기 저 다 인지 민지 자와는 지 가서에 pongas que me vi bien ta kala kan sabji susuti 가서 다지 수수 지 삼려 나눠래야 디 코어지 생해네 삼려 나눠래 양지 드레지 타네 삼려 나눠래 아디 데지 마르트 주요르다 안에 가르세드 좀 안다 지 삼려 나 코어 이미네 안 저신기 개발抓지는 거로 봐 당에 섬을 넘겨다 너는 수수 김제 셰베 도하는 차례 계속으로 something도 나 마음 못이다 심이 다들 시죠 아마 못이다 시에는 술 보내 하고 막
So therefore, I think to give up this, what we call the like meat or red food, is something that will bring us. So it's maybe not completely give up to eat the meat straight away, but if we think about to eat meat, to think about it, then that in this world we have so many animals which we have only to produce meat for us to eat. So and how much suffering we give them, like we give them limitless suffering. If we think about if this kind of suffering would happen to us, how we would feel. The only difference between animals and us humans is that the animals cannot express themselves, but the feelings of suffering and not wishing for that suffering is the same, and the stress that I feel is the same. So because we only see the meat, we don't see what is behind that meat. So we need to think of. So we see like the package of meat. We don't see what is behind, where what is the animal behind, from where that meat comes. So like this is one way to think, and then another way it's also to be vegetarian has a lot to do with protection of environment by having so much animals. Then it is bringing environmental problems as well. So therefore sometimes I think maybe there's many reasons for being a vegetarian. It's like not so much reasons for eating meat, and so even so, if we don't give it up completely straight away, the meat, I think if we like think in this way, then just like reducing our meat intake already will make a big difference. So I think that's what I think is there's many reasons, and people need to can think about these reasons, then I think it will be more logic to be vegetarian.
Oh yeah. 찌르다. 컨트롤 가서 밤. 어야 맞아. 문제. 치료 가서. 어허. 다들 핑이니까 좀 치료 가서. 자리 주시에 셔서 다이네. 근데 치료 가서 시에는 싫어. 아유, 된다. 신나다.
Laisse tomber celle-là.
So leave that question. Okay, another one. Next one.
Kiwa ngama ki kola ge. Machi ki gomba kana yeres. Samsul.
네.
Your point of view.
Point of view.
Chetangi kiwa ngama ki kola.
What is your point of view about past lives generally?
Kiwa ngama chi buki.
기왕 한번 치미고. 기왕 지금 point of view.
About rebirth, past and future lives.
미사사도.
I don't have a special point of view.
La question c'est quel est votre point de vue sur les vies antérieures? Il dit pas vraiment de point de vue.
I myself had a lot of doubts or like questions myself if there is past and future lives. So I might.
간다지 야 된제 나 인세 이렇게 라벼 말해. 근데 저지 제요 말해. 근데 삼로요 말해. 제산다 인지미지 까마바 임버 쳐발이야. 까마바 임벌량 게 경황 마 탱과를 지게 디디디 대요 디디나롤. 경황 마 태나야. 까마바 마테나 까마바. 다 늘비치 샤소래. 다이네 조조 참참 다지 까마베 디고 호메고 기자 말해. 지당기 경험만 들어봐. 경험만. 지당 경험만 들래. 다들이 맨로서 뭐지 참참지 샤령도 삼련나로야지 지 카시양베 세우시다요 되버지. 가서다. 다 이내한 디리스 가서지 세븐이 예되버지래. 양 문진안에 매den게버지. 세븐 예되버지래. 문진 지에주잖아. 양지 계산이 시야 매den게버지. 다가도 늘 참참 지용한데도 제가 대균전 때는 참참 다들이 비슷하는 경험만 지에 씹으면 섬들을 된도 시야만 땅 아시라 랑외는 미세 델리하게 샤스케민도
For example, like now I'm recognized myself as Karmapa, and many people ask me,
참 카시에 feeling을 전부 영어도스, but I don't know how to describe. How to describe? You know? Describe? Describe.
So many people ask me, oh, do you remember being the past Karmapa? And I cannot say that I remember really being the past Karmapa. Like I didn't become the Karmapa by saying, oh yes, I remember I was the past Karmapa. So whether I remember or not, I was recognized as the Karmapa, and but I do sometimes have like a feeling of a past life, not necessarily the past Karmapa in itself, but like generally like our past life, where I think, oh, it could be like that, yeah. So we have this feeling, but I don't know how to describe it. Even so it's very arises very clear, but I cannot really like identify it very clearly. Cannot describe it very clearly. So sometimes I have this feeling. So, which brings me to that point where I think, yeah, maybe there is after all past lives. Yeah? So I have like this feeling.
I think 3 more questions. 좋았어.
낭바이나 소소 시트산에 소소 왕포라 미션바라 돼야 이러. 데 디지나 디 야보레베세. 낭바이나.
So if you're a Buddhist, is it good to give your organs?
별이야 다디 룩스 다지 쥐기 바지 쥐기 냠내로 지입니다. 아니 저 풍부 샌도 줄었어. 풍부디 지 칼라로 지래 쇠시 섬으로 다지 차다 치우디 사 칼라로 쇠시 다가다 디스코드 아주지 풍부디 자고를 돼야지 룩스 줘봐. 다 풍부 샌도 줄었어. 산 풍부디 안다지 칼라로 쇠시. 아니 지심지 배주여 버리지. 몇 메사단 샤블레 셴다지 펜도여버 차 느종데 거라 제가 드린 인도사 진짜 냠냥 토는 삼담이면 된데 지가서 펜도여버 제비미나 안지 수수이 딱한다 풍부대 지다스면서 다사블레 지가 되니여버 용거로 봐 따이는 강에 좀 미망부지 뒤쳐도 제 상한 냠는 층에 뒤져기 아니 풍부디 아니 디가스레디 가서다 남사 아니 될래야 토다요 말스 다 들고 들 제비입니다 안 누그레스 아직 들지 구슬이야 들지 계속 총샤 제가 들지 누그레 말스 이렇게 진행 같이 줘서 다디 당분에 오늘지 수수익이 맛이 권해 안 들지 다지 되게 인사 바로지 들지 르 심벌을 체제 아니 지 르 심벌을 지여비미나 아니 바지시다 경고 안 나서 버지 정도 맨 전주 선배들 저기 아니 랑 본부지 못하라 손보 거라지 못하라 이제 시라서 누구 안 선배들 정도다 다양한 저기 르 심벌을 체제 심기 심벌을 이제 토하네 제비네甚至 누구나 가시 다 가다지단 제한테 야구면도 some 정도스
So in Tibetan tradition, there's like the tradition of where we like transform our body into food for others. So therefore, when a person dies and we give the body, the corpse to the birds, the vultures, that's the tradition of the sky burial, where the body, the physical body, the corpse then is given to the vultures as a food to benefit others, just not just getting rid of it by burning it or burying it, but actually using it to benefit others. So this but in this way, it could be like beneficial if one thinks to benefit others. But then there's many people from the point of view of Tantra that if one touches the body, it can harm the practitioner in its practice. So therefore, many people are scared and come to me and ask about that. But I think if before your death, you already like really give up your body, you really like get rid of all clinging to your body and think, I will decide that. So then, for before your death, already during your lifetime, if you decide to do that, and by this like giving up really clinging to your body, then I think it's actually something good to do, maybe, because the bodhisattvas give their body while they're still alive, no? So I think it's not so harmful as such. But if you cannot really give up your body, you're clinging of your body, if you cannot like let go of your body, then could be maybe harmful. But in general, I don't see it as something bad. So there's two questions that actually are quite similar. One is how to be together, live with people who have different point of view than oneself, and the other question, which goes is if the husband is a Christian, oneself is a Buddhist, how can one live together in harmony? So as there are similar questions, I think it's good to put them together.
다디 지당 초니게기 초니가로 매주셔야지 그래 마도베 다 초지기 야고시 용토야데 가보시우시래 빈주니가 고향 삼로 여비입니다 덴데 집 용토야 여비지 마도베 초지기 차상으로 지 용토야데 가보시우시 맨도 좀 정도 한 라버동에 삼려야데 최초는 배나 인지민지 배나 수수기 배나 교화로디 주유 출루신다 제 안에 소소 나버로 심비미나 난 지금도 대백거리야 수수 출루기 답변이 리추얼로 되게지 지금 얼마다 숙침부를 쳐야지 넘유 뭐세트부를 쳐 다들 인지민지 시다 제과스케 아이나서 버르지 삼삼 한 딘데가 돈 컨플릭트 용되기나 다가나 쳐도 미디어를 차로 제가 대균선 때네 에너지 컨플릭트 매베 돈에 에너지 운중거 돈에 다들 쳐야나 단단한 조조데 간다지 가서 최근에 도마디 수수 미잔치리아 아니 지금 되어야다 디게요하로 디네 고조제 아니 배신도 약견로 가지 니주 차리야래 제가 디규zel 때네 아니 그러지 침산지 첨dünya 개체르지 대유아 체도 양지 유아 동화르지 비나 유아 동화지 버지든지 하되 만들어서 도스탱도스 참자랑 가시지 수수 출루들 셴바시부체 리조르다 되게 셴바시부체 다다가랑 제고데 맞은 드면서 아직 제제 양 되게 쇼기 양지 지 용데도 하더니 인도산에 지당기 출루들 개체브레데 이비나 다 간다 아주 미유의 조대지 되게요 첨dü냐로 드지비 인도산에 아데 미유디 마법의 토네 냐면 제가 와도 개집시라고 섬정도 하신다가 마음부시 쉬면도 다 디슈들 양에 계획이 타도면서 당기 시험에서 타드 시어래 시엔르다 시 정말 담을게요 싸움한가람
So generally, it's important to make effort on both sides. If it comes only from one side, the effort is difficult. So it has to be like mutual effort, like caring for each other mutually. Then I think it's possible. It's to live together in harmony. Just from one side, it's difficult. But especially when there's like different religions, for example, if the husband has a different religion than oneself, then maybe it's not so needed to insist so much on one's own religion, as religion is about to bring harmony. Then if we insist much on our religion, then it's it brings about conflict and trouble. So therefore I think like better be on a level of reality, of actual reality, and the basis of Buddhism is to bring harmony to the whole society, which has to start in the family, the harmony and understanding. Then one can expand this harmony to the society. So therefore I think some people are very attached to their own religious tradition and want to make others change into their. So I think main point of religion, of any religion, is to be in harmony and bring happiness. So without losing this aim that we have, then if we practice like this, to keep in mind that the main point is to be happy and in harmony, I think then it will be okay. So now I want to say a few concluding words.
다다라 타만들이야 다리 지니월이야 가서 니만 이거리야 가서다 지왕 구르게시야 듬제 고르 춤래 그냥 참으로야 대 여보다 언제 진짜 참으로야 그냥 참으로야 시라게 뒤지 망고스 다지 대표래 아주 조선 그라서 다지 제가 참으로래 도체나 샤인스.
So now, as a conclusion, we've been here 2 days in Genève, and all of you came here, and I gave empowerment myself, gave some teachings, and all of you came here, spending time, spending money, so I want to express my gratitude and thanks to all of you.
아주 정말 춘중거 별이야 대주산 춘중거리야 아니 수스네 배받은데 용거 수스대에 배받은데 별이야 년제什么了 빙자토가 용거 빙자토가 영한체 아니 고조 삼성 아니 구르든데 cap지 구르 춘중인데 수스 구르 다 고조 수스 인베 냠던 거로 왔다 제가 수스 구르 춘중인데 기영한체 왜 질러대 구르 cap지 대대 대중 알로 춘주지래 대대 코서에 배 기나를 시셔 딱 관주지 라와를 지지 야치 마치 주용 별이요 양파치 수스치 김도 가버스 통해 나한테 두산에 아 도자 집에 간대요 그래 아 다다 유디래 도자 집에 가래 아다 거기는 도자 집에 간대야 있으라 제가 다 도자 집에 가려고 파준 드라이는 이내고 도시고 가래나 통고도 와 파로딩에 춘로딩에 강가로 통도 제사 되게 에지 가르에 지 지자고 지금 제상 대두산 따지 디르시야 따이나 다당고에서 수슬이야 용토부터 따데 로숨주 스두산다 또 갱고로 찾아라다 요아데 시차송데 대이비네 안에 따지 지 용토부터 가보시라 촌스 안에 바제다 뭔가 충두기 집에 두기 다 명함선에다 라데 루베임자 제사 디즈 시차송에 가보시라 촌스야
So in Tibet, when I was small, and I had some relatives who had went to Switzerland, and they came from Switzerland to visit their families, and when they came, they had a Swiss tent that they put up, and they were staying outside in the Swiss tent, showing off that they are Swiss now, and so showing that they're like very happy, like very to be Swiss because they live in a free country, free to come to Tibet and go back. So I was staying like in the fourth floor also, and now I stay in the fourth floor in Goethe, but then you can see always who comes and goes like this, you can see everything. Now after 30 years, it's a little bit too late maybe, but I could finally come to Switzerland, and maybe it was like some prayers that I did when I was a child, that I could come, and so I'm really happy, even though it's a little bit late that I came.
아니 가는 거만 쉬면 수스다 베베기 파유 니버르지다 사버 니버르지도 샤려 베바 먹지데 레지 데 소화게지들이 예브레 제자 디딜이야 잡요난게 안지 미만소레 다나지 정보소레 상물로리비냐 아니 데리고급데 렌체 그냥 상물로야 두세스 그런 시슈아이.
And as I said yesterday, Switzerland is like the second land that takes most Tibetan refugees. Many Tibetan families could come and receive refugee status. So I want to say thank you. You're very kind, all of you people who allow that to happen.
아니, 자신다. 오케이. 됐어.
Rien d'autre à dire.
So, Your Holiness, as President of Reason Suisse, organizer of this event, and in the name of all of us here, I would like to thank you from the depths of my heart for these precious teachings, empowerment, and blessings that you gave to all of us here. I'm sure and that it has been a very deep, transforming experience for many of us here. You made us really feel like at home, and it really felt like one family enjoying together your precious teachings. So this is the end of this event here in Geneva, but it's actually only the first part of our stay, of your stay here in Switzerland. Tomorrow you will have a dialogue with scientists at the University of Lausanne, and then we will move to Zurich, where you will give teaching to an audience of 1,900 people. So actually it's been more than 6 years that we try to invite Your Holiness to Switzerland, and finally, thanks to the common efforts of Namkha Rinpoche, Ngundrup Dorje, the representative of His Holiness Dalai Lama in Geneva, Ringu Tuku Rinpoche, and all your entourage at Tsupu Labra Monastery, we have managed to make this invitation happen, and it really feels like a dream come true. You just said it was your dream from when we were a child. When you were a child, it was also our dream now for 6 years, so it is still very difficult to realize that you are here in Geneva with us. So it is your first time here in Switzerland, and we really hope that it is only the beginning of a long-lasting connection between Your Holiness and Switzerland. We are certain that your activities will flourish more and more, and we really wish that you will come back very soon and give us your precious teachings again. So before
Which part of Swiss?
Whichever
Dans quel
part you
coin de
want, Your
Suisse?
Highness. Geneva, please.
À Genève.
Uh-oh. I didn't. Zurich, you have
You prefer
big
Zurich?
problem in Zurich.
We will have the problems. We will see, Your Highness.
Yeah.
So, before concluding, I want to express my gratitude to Chamsenla, His Holiness's sister, and all the entourage of His Holiness for helping him in his precious activities. And also, special thanks to the translators, Jampa Damien here on stage, and Marcus Peldendorje in the cabin. We are all very grateful for the clarity with which you have expressed His Holiness's words. So I would also like to thank all the volunteers, security officers and staff of the Théâtre du Léman, and all those who have purchased the sponsored tickets for your important contribution for this event. And finally, thanks to all of you who have come here today. The atmosphere during this weekend was very quiet and harmonious, so thanks to all of you. So, Your Holiness, the adventure will continue for one more week. We hope there will not be too many troubles in Zurich, as you said. And in the name of all of us here, because so far it went pretty well, I want to thank you so much from the depths of the heart for your precious presence here in Geneva.
Thank you.